a review of What If by Thomas. Unless if I get a Shang-Chi video out before then.
Time, space, reality. It's more of a linear path. It's a prism of endless possibility, where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternative worlds to ones you know. I am Thomas. I am your guide through these vast new episodes. Follow me and ponder the question, how good was What If?
What if?
Episode 1 is the Captain Carter episode, and this is the episode I was basically hoping for in the series. The episode where there's basically a life-threatening decision and a change in the timeline that the series gives us works in tandem with the original. I really do like Captain Carter in this episode, and how this one decision affects not only everything at the time, but Penny as well, making this character progression worth it to watch. She tries to make it worth her time she's in, but she's shot down even more than Steve was in the original film because of the time period and how stuff was done at the time. What I didn't like about this episode was basically the fact it took too much from the original film, which was basically underrated compared to its sequels. I don't think it was as good as to have the story to be too similar to its source material, because it made it like this episode was just rewriting stuff from the film because of this simple change. I think they should have changed more stuff about this episode, maybe to put in some more different scenes to differentiate from it. Overall, I give this episode a 7 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 2 contains T'Challa becoming Star-Lord, which I thought was a pretty interesting idea due to the Guardians films, especially the second one, making it out that it was planned that Peter Quill had to be the one to become Star-Lord. So to have T'Challa there was a good idea that was interesting by itself. This episode was really great, not having the same problem as the previous, where the choice actually changes a lot to the universe, and it shows the characters in a very different light than how they were to the film, especially Thanos, who I think gets the best and the funniest change of the whole episode. I also like the heist throughout this episode and how they kind of failed the first hurdle. I don't think there was anything I could say that was really bad about the episode. It was very enjoyable. Minor quips that I had, I could get past for the entertainment value alone given by this episode. Overall, I give this one a 9 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 3 was the episode that showed the whole world what would happen if the world lost its mightiest heroes, which was the first main deviation from the norm as it tackled the first phase of films and the events of Nick Fury's big week. I basically liked how, instead of this focused on just one change in the universe, this was one simple change to 5 other films in the cinematic universe, and that had this happened, we would have had a more interesting turn of events that would have happened. Also, the fact that they replaced Ed Norton with Mark Ruffalo for the Incredible Hulk scenes was probably the funniest thing of the whole series, as I think this is something Marvel had wanted to do after the recast, but never really had a chance because it was past those films at the point. The only problem that I had with this episode was that Hank Pym was the main villain of the episode instead of Loki, because I felt this was more of a Loki idea than Hank, because even though he was showing the past hatred for S.H.I.E.L.D., he probably wouldn't have gone after them like this to overcome the problem he had. Overall, I give this episode a 7.5 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 4 is the episode that allowed us to question what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands, and for me this was the one I had to research because I only watched the original film once before Infinity War, so I couldn't really remember much out of it. As a time travel fan, Doctor Who, myself, I like the Escape and Fate montage that this episode shows us that even if Stephen tries to change one small thing, they can't. And unless he does something major like he did in this story, which I was truly surprised when he became the Sorcerer Supreme and ended up doing worse to the world than he would have done had he just kept to his morals, and even finding out that the Watcher doesn't even want to do anything with him was actually harrowing to find out in the least. I think the only stuff that doesn't work is the jokes in this one. I think with the plot and the events of this episode having more of a serious tone in the change of the series, I think the humour falls a bit flat because it really just doesn't fit with what they're trying to do compared to other episodes in the series. Overall, I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 5 is the episode that changed everything by asking, what if zombies? Making this the pseudo-Halloween special slash Marvel Zombies crossover, which I have read a couple of the titles in the series, which I have enjoyed. And I was interested to see how the MCU version was going to pan out, because we really hadn't known where this could actually happen. So to have this occur in the events of Infinity was perfect timing, as it was the time where a lot of heroes came together, so the zombie aspect works. I think anything like the last episode, the attempts at humour with the exception of Scott Langhead didn't really work as well because they felt very out of tone for the tone that they were trying to put on for this episode, which is very more serious than it was humorous. Overall, I give this episode a 7 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 6 goes right back to the beginning and asks, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? Which I can definitely say I was definitely looking forward to, because it was the one that came out of nowhere compared to the rest of them. Now, to say the least, it was great to see a departure of this episode, as it covered a little amount from the original film that started the universe, but it also did what it wanted to affect any others at the time. Also, I really like the friendship and the camaraderie between Killmonger and Tony Stark, and I only wish that they agreed with each other more and Tony didn't get killed in the middle of the story, because I think they really would have worked together in the end. I don't think there was anything bad about to do this episode. I enjoyed it and whilst watching. I didn't really notice anything that bugged me, so I guess there was not that much there to give it a negative experience for me. Overall, I give this one a 9 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 7 has the requirement of saying what if Thor was the only child, which was weird but enjoyable to say the least. Stranger's episode was not hilarious or funny to say, but more interesting, how it was basically not an adventure but more of an 80s and 90s romantic comedy, which I have had my fair interest of watching. But I guess it was very unexpected what came before with how it was portrayed in the MCU, and how they did this because they really hadn't done a romantic comedy before. I mean, it was great to see Captain Marvel again. To be fighting somebody in the proper universe she'd be fighting alongside was good to see. But then again, I did also find this episode very plotless compared to the others, with it just being for the majority to say at least all about the party and not really much else except for the Captain Marvel fight. Overall, I give this episode a 6 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 8 tells us what if Ultron won, which sounds simple and should have been simple, but it became so much bigger than that along the way, and there was something else to say the least. If there was one thing I was going to love about this episode, it was the fact that I didn't know where it was going to go and where it could have gone after asking the question itself. Who would have survived and who would have died? And by God, those questions really kept on coming, and a lot of them got answered. Even the major fact that Ultron found out about the Watcher was one of the biggest things that just made me excited to watch more about this episode. This is just a thrill ride from beginning to end. I was glad to see I got to the end of this to find out they left it on a cliffhanger, which I didn't see coming. It was all great to say the least. Honestly, there's nothing I could probably complain about. I was definitely enjoying this one with no hyperbole. There's nothing that I could say that could ruin the episode for me. Overall, I'll give this episode a 10 out of 10.
What if?
Episode 9 finishes the series with the utmost biggest question of the series. What if the Watcher broke his oath? And well, it was a solid conclusion to the series. I don't think it was as great as the last one, because I had an idea of how it could have gone, which was basically a sort of a version of Infinity War and Endgame, but with the characters and the multiverses that we'd seen over the past 8 episodes. Everyone got their time in this episode, and it was great to see them all working together to stop a foe much bigger and more dangerous than any of them combined. And hell, it made for a great fight. Although people could say it went on too long, I think it went on long enough to show how it meant for everybody there. Overall, I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 10.
What if?
Overall, I think the show has definitely worked so far as an idea, and it was great to see that it succeeded, none of the episodes being entirely bad. If anything, the weakest episodes are the ones that tried to do something different but didn't work too well, because they either played it too safe to the source material, or left the product with something lacking. I'm still glad it was made, and I'm looking forward to Season 2 now that Phase 4 is definitely on its way. I hope Season 2 is obviously the best it can be, and I hope you enjoyed watching my thoughts about this. And I hope to see you soon for another video here, if I ever make one, it seems. Thank you, and goodbye.